the Finance and Audit Committee meeting for Thursday, April 13th, 2023. Teresa, will you take roll call?
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Dr. Pandolfi.
Here.
Ms. Wyckoff.
Here.
Mr. Dees.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, the agenda you have, I think, printed or was available. We are going to rearrange it a bit. So we can wait until I go through it, but we're going to move up the number 7 after we do the minutes. So number 7 will become number 5. What's currently number 5, the financials, will be 6. Current number 6. Cash flow will be number 7, and then number 8 will be what is on your agenda as number 9. And then the budget will become is number 8. Let's say that. I'm sorry, Prop L will become 8, and then the budget will become 9. So we're just rearranging things to accommodate some schedules and the information flow. So with that, I'd ask for an approval for the agenda. So a second.
Yeah, I'll second the motion to approve the agenda.
All right, Teresa, just so it's easier, just take a roll.
Okay. Ms. Wyckoff.
Aye.
Pandolfi.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
Motion passes.
You've had the minutes, they were posted. Hopefully you've read them. Any corrections or changes to those?
Sure, I have one. It's on item 8. And I don't know, the 4 or 5 paragraphs down. Isn't the on the commercial assessment values, isn't it 32% of market value, or it's listed in here as 33%? And I thought it was 32%.
Do you have I sent Teresa a correction. I don't know if you have my correction in there. I sent that on Tuesday. So, but I know it.
Okay.
My understanding it was at 33.
Oh, really?
Well, that was my understanding, which is what I think the minutes now say. So, but there was a proposal. Someone proposed 31. I don't know what happened to that. It was, again, information. So, and I'm not aware that that's.
Well, frankly, I thought it was 32 because it was a long time ago. Now, I've been out of the legislature a long, long time. So they could have changed, but that's the only question I had. Not that it's going to.
I think the minutes read that my understanding. So.
Yes, it does.
Okay, all right. So if there's no other changes, then I'd ask for a motion to approve minutes. So, a second.
Second.
That was Michelle. Okay, will you take roll, Teresa?
Sure. Wyckoff.
Aye.
Pandolfi.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Dees.
Yes. Okay.
Passes.
Okay. The financial statement audit, you have the engagement letter, the proposed engagement letter that was posted online. Michael Keenan, who was here last year to present the audit, is with us today to present this as well. This is a 1-year agreement, correct? Correct. Okay. So my understanding is last year was the last year of a 3-year agreement that was previously in place. This is a 1-year agreement only. The proposed fees are, which is on the back page, $40,000, which I understand is a 5% increase, yes. Correct? And I also note in the first paragraph that you share this work with Ralph C. Johnson and Company. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, I guess I usually don't present the engagement letter. So I guess I would open it up to questions regarding anything that's in here. I would say that Cochran Head Vic was acquired by Hood and Associates a couple years ago. We've been doing the audit here since 2008. And we've been successful. That's gone out RFP for 3 to 5 years, and we've submitted proposals for that and have been accepted and engaged by the library for those periods of time. Engagement letter, we present this every year. It's only good for 1 year. It outlines, again, the scope of the audit, management's responsibilities as the preparing financial statement, taking responsibility for those statements. It also outlines our responsibilities as the auditors, which basically means that we need to plan and perform the audit under professional standards to obtain reasonable assurance, but not absolute assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. What that means is we do not test every transaction. We sample various transactions based on our risk assessments. And as far as planning the audit, we obtain an understanding of the library's key internal control processes, which would include cash receipts, cash disbursements, payroll. And also as a part of our planning, we review the minutes of the finance committee and the board. We also have interviews with chair of the finance committee as far as and the director to see if there's any issues known or any concerns regarding the controls or any issues with legal situations. At the end of the audit, we confirm with your attorney to see if there's any legal actions that would require disclosure to or adjustment to the financial statements. That's kind of summarizes our approach and our requirements as far as professional standards. We also are required to be independent of the Continental Public Library and perform our procedures to the extent we feel necessary. Any questions? That kind of outlines what we do, and that's enumerated within this engagement letter.
So can you talk just, I just noticed when you were before the Johnson and Company participation historically and what is planned in terms of review. Well, the Ralph C. Johnson minority will be involved in all aspects of engagement. Fees will be shared based on participation. Is this new or is this?
Ralph C. Johnson has always been a part of this joint venture as far as MBE requirements.
So my question is, what is the participation?
Yeah, and I was getting to that. So typically, they will do approximately 10% of the hours of the engagement, and that historically has been approximate to the average that they have participated in this engagement.
Okay, so is that primarily staff level work then?
Staff level, correct.
Okay. Thank you. Great. I assume you're aware of the Forbes report?
I've heard that it exists. I have not looked at it.
Okay, all right. Can you explain, okay, so what that needs to be made available to you? The second question is to what extent the Forbes report was a review of the disbursements process. And that was presented to the board in March, I think. So it's on board docs. Second question then is on, to what extent, my second question is on when we look at things that are budgeted or approved versus the financial statements, is there any aspect of the budget that comes into the play on the audit?
As far as when we look at the disbursements, we do a testing of disbursements for approval and compliance with the policy. And then we look at an overall comparative of actual expenditures versus the budget and evaluate to see if there's any budget violation. If there is such a budget violation, then we would report that in financial statements and in our required communications.
Okay, all right. Others? Shell or Yami, any questions?
No, I don't have any, thanks.
Then if there's no questions, I guess the motion, is there a motion on the board, Teresa, that I need to read?
We don't.
Or do I need to make it up?
Yeah.
So the motion for the committee is to present to the board the approval of Hood and Associates as the financial statement auditor for the year ending June 30, 2023, for the with the fees of $40,000 as noted in the letter. That's the motion. And it needs a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Teresa, will you take roll?
Ms. Whitehouse. Dr. Pandolfi.
Sorry, it was I couldn't get unmuted.
Thank you. Mr. Thies,
Yes.
Dr. Pandolfi,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
And Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, as Hood Associates, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be the auditors of the Cotton Public Library. Again, we take our job very seriously. And we have in the past and will continue to do so. And so thank you for your time.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Yeah, also our condolences. I understand that, you know.
Yeah, Dave Cochran, who was the founding father of Cochran Head Vic and Company, passed away earlier this year. He was, I think, 84, and had been, his lifelong commitment was to Cochran Head Vic and Company. And unfortunately, his health deteriorated over time as he used to come and participate in these meetings and do the presentation of the audit. And he'll be missed. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day. You know what happens to accountants. All accountants never die. They just lose their balance.
Wait a minute.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next up, monthly financials.
Okay, the first page should be the monthly operating fund. Yeah. For tax revenue, we received close to 99% of the budget. And we believe we will receive about $300,000 or $400,000 more than budget for the whole year. The rest of the revenue accounts is very close to the budget, except the miscellaneous income. We have had a very big increase. The biggest effect is the passport service. Last month, we received over $19,000. On the expenditure side, payroll, at the end of March, we spent about 72% of the budget. If we have decided to implement first phase of the new pay scale, the whole year payroll, I believe we can still manage it under the budget. Library materials, usually in June, we will spend more than average for library materials. And for the whole year, maybe $400,000 below the budget. Other operational accounts, I believe will be a little bit below the budget. Also, the interest income will be higher than budget at the end of the year. including interest income plus higher than expected tax revenue, miscellaneous income, and along with some savings for expenditure side, we think we could have a operating surplus for about $1.5 million by the end of June. So that's the operating fund for the month. Next few page will show the capital project fund. We have been behind on some payments. So in April and May, you may see some big increase for the capital plan. But the total amount will be below the budget, I believe. Yes,
You said behind in payments, you're talking about payments on current activity or payments between the current capital fund and the general fund?
capital, the current bills for capital plan, especially to JE Dunn and SDA.
Okay, so are they, when you say they're behind, are they just part of the review process?
Well, there was a little bit, the review process was extended, with our staff changes. So there was a slight delay.
Okay. Okay, all right.
The next few page will show the capital project fund. I'm sorry, the debt service and also the gifts and grant fund. The last one is the health insurance. For health insurance fund, the contribution from employee and employer will meet the budget. On the expenditure side, I believe the total amount will be below the budget, although the admin fee and the stop loss may exceed the account budget. At the end of the year, the fund balance will still be between the minimum and the maximum required by the policy. So that's the monthly financial.
Questions on that?
Yeah.
We'll probably get into, we'll probably get into some of the stuff when we talk about the budget later on, but.
Okay, because I had a question about salary. So I can do it now or later, it doesn't matter.
In terms of what we spent or talking about?
Well,
Because I-
when do salaries tend to take effect in July or now? I don't know when. When do salaries, is it all pretty much at one date or is it through the year, throughout the year?
In the past, usually, we had two kinds of adjustments to payroll. One is so-called lump sum payment, no effect on your base pay, just one time in July. And also in the past, sometimes we would approve an adjustment to the base. Both usually happen in July. But last year, we had an exception. We made it in May, I believe. Lump sum payment.
Explain the lump sum again.
Lump sum is a one-time payment to most employees, not everyone, and not the same amount to everyone. It depends on the performance evaluation and the how much of the pay was available to pay.
Okay, this is ringing a bell. The percentage that we included in the budget, I think was like, what, 2?
Last year was like a $300,000 to $400,000.
Yeah, that sounds right. Okay.
Well, I asked because I visited Coleman Road yesterday and a couple of ladies thanked me for their pay raises. I'm sitting there dumbfounded almost, but I didn't show that. So I didn't know where we were with the process of salary adjustments. I'll put it that way.
So the answer there is those adjustments were part of the plan for this year.
I assume that's what
Right.
that's about.
Yeah, and so they're referring to the adjustments that were outlined in Personnel Committee yesterday. That became effective March 16th
It'll be on their next paycheck.
on their next paycheck.
Well, I assume that's part of this process, but I didn't want to act like I didn't know what they were talking about, so.
Just accept the,
Just- Oh, okay, well, all right.
but we're happy to share more detail about how those lay out.
Yeah, I was there yesterday and a couple of them thanked me.
I don't recall voting for anything, so
I didn't say that. you know, so.
okay.
Okay, any other questions on that? I think we'll probably have more when we talk about the preliminary budget.
Could I add, sure, one thing? This increase was budgeted, which is why.
I assume that's what it was. It was a previous budget back several months ago. Yeah.
Okay,
But I don't know why it was mentioned yesterday, because I figured it was approved several months ago.
approved, but yeah, we never moved on it, just because of the transition and staffing, so.
Okay.
Disbursements detail, Quan, do you want to review that?
The disbursement, the first one should be the check. Okay. We have the legal and have legal and consulting service, travel conference. Along with total payments we made during the month to all vendors, plus the credit card transactions. The credit card transactions is about 1 month behind. It usually takes about a few weeks to reconcile, to collect all the receipts. And the credit card total payment should be on the payment list. Yeah, the total amount of those credit card transactions should be on the payment list.
Honors, I've not been able to, I was out and unable to get to some. Is there anything in here that should be highlighted or pointed out for us that is either unusual, non-recurring, not within the line item budget, but within the major category budget that committee should be aware of?
No, I don't think so. I think all payments are according to the budget.
And to the line item.
Yes.
Okay. When I say line item, I mean the account number.
Yeah, if anything significant and unbudgeted, usually we would inform the board.
Any questions or comments on that? The investments, separate item. Do you want to, is there a separate page or do you?
Yes, there was a investment.
It's on the screen now.
Okay. Well, the last column is the ending balance for March. We have two accounts, two investment accounts, capital and operating. At the end of the March, the investment income for capital account is 22,646. And the market value adjustment, this is unrealized again, is about close to $375,000. Last month in February was a negative $268,000.
Yes, that's the change for the month, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, just, can we relabel that
Okay.
as the change as opposed? Somebody might think that's the ending unrealized, but that's not the case.
No. Okay.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So the ending balance is $24.1 million. The cost base is 25.9. So that's about $1.8 million negative. The market value is below the cost. On the operating account, for the operating account, we transferred out at a maturity $3 million back to the bank checking account. And we received net interest. Net interest is interest income net of the monthly fee, $44,000. And again, the monthly market value adjustment is $160,723. The ending balance based on the market value is $34.7 million. Cost base is 34.3. So that's $400,000 above the cost for operating account.
So what's our yield on, because this is a combination of what's in the capital account
Yes,
as well as the operating account, correct? So what is our yield on what's our current yield on the operating account? Because I know they pay us some
it's
money.
over 4%.
And what's our yield on the fixed, well, which I assume are all short-term fixed income?
Yes,
So what is our yield on that?
yeah, very close to that number.
Okay.
Most of them is just 3 months.
Okay. So I guess I have the same comment. Short-term rates are pushing 5%. So
Yes,
we should take advantage of that.
yes. And that's the rate for the money market on the investment side. Also, the bank gave us the same rate for the checking account.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions on that?
I think just a comment that the unrealized gain and loss, et cetera, et cetera. It is unrealized. We're not selling anything. We're holding to maturity.
Yes, our intent is to hold it till maturity currently.
Well, as of today's
As
meeting.
of today, that's correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, personnel schedule. Reading that, if you can, so this is the same format that's been up previously. Is Jennifer here?
She's online.
Jennifer, do you want to give us a quick rundown in where we stand? Any changes on this, comments, things that we should be aware of?
This is Cody. Jennifer is not online.
Oh,
She
she
was.
was today. She was. She may.
Okay, well, Aaron?
She's just text me.
We can do this at the board meeting.
We went over it yesterday. I'd be more comfortable with her kind of getting into the details of this. Let's do it at the board meeting.
Okay, all right. So I guess the good thing is we're at 72% of the budget in total, but go ahead, Ron.
I just may want to mention that the library's YouTube channel has a presentation of the personnel committee meeting. It's only 42 minutes and there's a very exhaustive presentation by Jennifer, which I recommend to everybody.
All right, let's move on. Cash flow, one.
Okay. The first two columns is the actual for the period from July to November and from December to February. And the third column is the projection based on current year's estimate from May to June. So yellow is for current year. Next one is the 23-24 fiscal year and 24-25. Each fiscal year has 3 periods. I divided I started with July to November. That's before the tax revenue arrives, and December and February during the tax revenue receiving, and the last column is March to June, is after we receive the tax dollar. At the end of the fiscal year, I believe we will have 20.5 million dollars available to us. And between July and November of 2023, we will have $2 million matured from capital project fund. So that's $22.5 million cash available for us for both capital and operating. On the cash payment, cash outflow from July to November 2023, we will need about $24 million for operating. And to make $1.4 million in debt service. For capital, I estimate at $6 million payments from July to November. So that's about $31.5 million in cash needs. Subtracting the available cash, the shortage is about $9 million, close to $9 million. So that's a quick overview of the cash flow.
That's the hole that has to get filled.
Yes.
Okay. So does that happen in October, November?
Depends on the capital side. It really depends on how soon we pay them.
Well, assuming we don't intentionally hold up payments.
But it could be a construction delay also.
Right.
So I'm assuming will be the bigger needs will be in October and November.
All right. And I assume we're going to defer discussion how to deal with that till later.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. On the very bottom of the page in the bold, we have the ending capital fund balance. And I'm just going to skip over to the right-hand column, which shows a deficit of $8 million. So if I'm reading in the aggregate accurately, that's the whole in terms of the capital fund, correct?
Yes.
That has to get filled
Yes.
with allocations from current revenues.
Or fund balance transfer.
Well, but we don't, but I mean, we're short as we'll talk about this as well, but that's the number that surfaced in November when we presented the details, presented the updated information in January, where we were at about 8 million. And so you have 8 million here. Are those all the same numbers?
Yeah, it's not exactly the same, but these.
But I mean, in round dollars.
Yes.
Round dollars, we have an $8 million hole that has to get filled.
Yes.
Okay. All right. But that doesn't eliminate the fact that we have this, what I'll call the short-term funding deficit, assuming we don't sell any of the capital fund securities. If we do that, then obviously that's an option. We would take a loss on those. Okay. Any questions on that, Yummy or Michelle? Okay, let's move on to what is now number 8, Prop L. I think there's a schedule you have on. You want to just give us a quick overview of that?
There are two sections of the report. On the right side is the total amount completed as of March 31st, 2023. On the right side.
For the benefit, Michelle's on the phone. I don't think she's.
I'm sorry.
So can you just give her some numbers and perspectives so she can, she's not watching this.
Okay. Sorry.
No, I'm driving, so I'm not looking. Sorry.
Okay. At the end of March, we have spent a total amount about over $108 billion for the whole capital plan That includes everything, Farview, Riverside. Also, based on the information I have received so far, I projected we would need over $23.7 million to finish up the remaining capital plan, especially for Green Valley, East Independence, Riverside, and North Oak. Other capital projects may have a small amount left need to be completed. So in summary, the completed amount at the end of March is over $108 million. I estimate we will spend about $9 million in the remaining fiscal year and $12 million in next fiscal year and $2.7 million in fiscal year 24-25. That will make a total amount about $131.7 million for the whole plan.
And again, just for reference, the original budget was 113.2 million. Which did not, well, there's a lot of things that it's not just Riverside. There were things contemplated in the original plan that were not done or deferred. There were other things that were done that were not in the original plan, including replacement of Riverside. But at least what is on the table is 131 point, I'm going to round it up to 131.8 million against the 113. So it's an $18 million spread on that. Any questions? Because I'm going to move to the next item. So I asked Teresa, I'd actually intended to have this done, but I had some other things that some out of town commitments that came up. I went back and looked at the original, I guess what I'll call amendments or approvals or work packages or whatever. I have all of these here for everything that was done. I have a schedule ready that I have left to double check the numbers that the board approved, but just to give you some idea, and I can send this out to the committee once the numbers are checked, but excluding the architect fees and the furniture and other stuff, and I guess this is just I'll call the land and the buildings, or is this? No, this is strictly buildings, okay? Strictly buildings, we had what we presented in January was that we had or will be spending $103.6 million, okay? Updating for Riverside, it's 103.8 million, okay? From the work package documents I have here, Michelle, I know you can't see this. Those totals, those amounts, and say there's what, 30 things on here, 30 projects on here, is $100.7 million. So when I compare what we've spent to what was signed off on in terms of the JE Dunn pages that are signed amendments, I have a $3 million spread of we spent more than what the contracts say we were supposed to spend. When I go back to what the board had approved, and again, that's subject to double checking, but it looks like it's right at $100 million. So when I compare what is spent and what is projected to be spent of 103.8 against that 100, I have another, I have a $3+ million spread. And my question on that is, where did these excess amounts get approved if they did? Because I didn't say anything, well, I didn't fly spec board docs, right? I looked at the references that Teresa gave me for when each of these projects was approved. The other thing I would note here, and I know this is a lot of detail, but in each of these is a contingency line item, some of which are above, I'm just going to say above the subtotal, and some of which are below the subtotal. Some have a construction contingency. I should say all of them have a construction or / contingency. Some of the earlier ones have a design contingency. That wasn't apparent in some of the later ones. So when I look at the contingency totals, that's $5.9 million that was included in what was signed off on. I guess I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I'm going to give you just the numbers for the time being. But when the board approved this, it appears that we also approved, I'm going to just round the numbers up, $6 million for contingency spending over and above what J.E. Dunn said the contractors had bid and what the contractors had agreed to. So I don't know how that was managed. Again, I wasn't around, but it appears that we approved contingency amounts. And again, I think we need to find out how those were managed and who is spending that money. So, but again, I have questions about, do we have some approval issues that were not done? If so, how will we handle that piece? What are the ramifications of that? So, and the other thing is, now that I think about this, the architect's fees are also, if I remember, Quan, I mean, we can pull up the January schedule. I think the architect's fees are $1 million over budget plus. Yeah, I don't
remember exactly, but yeah, it's close.
It's north of $1 million. So the question is, when, were those variances approved by the board and when?
I believe the board only approved the contract with the architecture firm, not specific dollar amount.
So, okay.
The dollar amount was a part of the annual capital budget.
Well, okay, I'll defer that to what happens on the Prop L review relative to, I guess I'll push that into the Prop L review for the time being, unless somebody else has comments on it. Because that has to be synced up against the contract and what was spent. Correct.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it should be.
Okay, all right. So and who was managing that piece against the contract? Would that been?
It was the project manager.
Okay. So anyway, so that's what I have. I guess I don't have the answers. I just have a bunch of questions, and I have some what I'll call material variances here that I think we need to we will need to get further information and answers on. A couple other things I noted in, at least when I went through the board docs the first time, in what's labeled work package, and again, what's labeled the work package in board docs does not sync up to the numbers used in the amendments that Teresa gave me. As an example, work package 6, which is Camden Point, Clay Como, Dearborn, Richmond, Kearney, and Lone Jack, is labeled work package amendment 3 in the J.E. Dunn contracts. I noted that what was presented to the board in terms of details did not match the J.E. Dunn document total, and there are variances across the board on those. And that was both work package 6 and 7. So in some cases, the details were, when I get down to like Parkville and South Independence, the board saw a combined number. There were 2 separate J.E. Dunn documents to support that total, but those details didn't appear when I looked at that one meeting to have been presented to the board. So I wanted to get this out there before we talk about the budget because we still have work to do on Prop L, and it seems like more questions keep coming up. Yami or Michelle, any comments, questions?
It's probably best I'm driving. I'm gonna leave it alone right now and process all of this. Thanks.
I do want to, I don't think, Quan, we haven't sent any of this to CFO Systems, correct?
No.
Okay, so what I'd like to do, unless there's an objection, I'd like to send all these documents to CFO Systems so they can incorporate it into their scoping review. Any objection to that, comments?
I would encourage that.
Okay, I mean, I think we have to, because the more, we have to get this information in front of them so that they can adequately scope it. Again, their job, as I've said to them and said here, is not to rearrange the deck chairs or rearrange the furniture. It is to say, here's what the deck looks like, how the furniture is arranged, and there may be some time cost into digging into that. And I think that's part of it. And I don't have any update. I know the CFO Systems project status is moving, but hopefully we'll get when I send this to them, I'll see what their time frame is. It's different than what it was, what they previously told us. Okay. Any further questions on that? Oh, I know what I did. I'm sorry. I skipped. The other piece is already sent out. Okay, so that was a summary of where we stand and what I found. I had Teresa post, and I think a couple of you have it printed. Michelle, since you're driving, I'm going to give you the numbers. So I sent out the two dashboards. One is dated May 28, 2020. That in fact was the dashboard that was presented to at the June 2020 board meeting. And then I also sent out the what's dated July 18, 2022. And that looks to be the same as the March one, which I've been referring to over the course of the past several months. In going through these packages, there is this schedule, and again, you have these, but I believe it is, Yummy, if you're looking online, it is on the amendment number, what's labeled amendment number 11. If you go to page 8 of the PDF, you will see a page that looks like this, and this was in all these amendment packages, but this one is dated May 6th of 2020. I think, Cody, go to the page before that, I believe. Well, it's PDF page 8 of that package. So just find that. There we go. And if you can blow that up and just blow it up and pull up the bottom part of the screen, because I'm just going to talk about the totals. Excuse me. So the current estimate, you'll see this is May of 2020, is $92.4 million, 92,421, 325. Right? If you look in the prior amendment documents, you'll see that most of that was the 84.5 million range. Okay. So the current, and this is now labeled adjusted master plan budget, 85,948,565. And you'll see a note over there that says increased from 84.5 million due to, I'm assuming, alternative funding of Redbridge. Is that what RB would be?
Yeah.
Okay. So they adjusted the budget. I didn't see this in board docs. The only thing that was presented in board docs was the total dollar amount. So at this point in May of 2020, this schedule is showing that the current estimate for total spending is about $6.5 million over the budget. What was presented to the board and for the budget approval process was this dashboard that said 84.5 million. Okay, so it appears, at least based on this, that the budget overage started occurring at least in early 2020. So then I gave you the July dated documents. Again, I'll just give you the Cody, if you can go to that next amendment package. The dashboards, I don't think I need to show because there's really nothing to show other than the total. So that should be page 6 of that second one. PDF page 6. Okay, and if you'll blow that up and get down to the very bottom in the yellow highlighted sections. Okay. So again, the what's stated the July 18th, 2022 dashboard shows the J done current of 84.5 million. You'll see here on this schedule, and I didn't fly spec this thing, but you'll see in that bottom section summary, master plan subtotal, other parentheses outside of the master plan, 1.686 plus, and the projected overall total of 102.565. So as of July last year, we had documentation that we were in excess of the original budget, but the dashboard that was presented to the board was 84.5 million. So again, I mean, it's obvious what we have here. Again, I have questions about the approvals, any other ramifications that result from this. I would like, I intend to present this at the Tuesday meeting of the board as well. So any comments or questions on this?
Yeah, Gordon, this is Yummy. Yeah, I appreciate all of your hard work in this. And I mean, I know it's taken a lot of time to go through this like you have with such a fine tooth comb. So yeah, I mean, I think that obviously, like you said, just presenting this to making the auditors aware of this. So I think all of us really want to get to the bottom. How did this ever happen? Yeah, so I just, want to thank you for your hard work in figuring this out.
Well, I appreciate that. Just one point of clarification. I don't know if this is, when you say auditors, are you referring to the Hood and Associates or something else?
The Prop L, yes.
Okay. So you're talking about the Prop L review. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
Again, just to be, not to be technical, but we're not doing an audit of Prop L. We're doing what's called agreed upon procedure. And I just so to clarify that.
Yeah.
I think this is, there may, again, I'm gonna leave this for discussion for the board, but go ahead, Michelle.
I'm sorry. I guess I just don't even, I probably should just stick to my not saying anything, but I do appreciate all the work you've done on it. Have you had a conversation with, I guess, building committee chair or the co-chairs at the time? There were two. Maybe you talked to anybody else about this, or is this you just found it out?
No, I just got this information from Teresa on, I think it was Monday. And I put it together, I just threw it together on Tuesday, and then I was out of town all day yesterday. So I just double checked some numbers this morning, but no, I have not talked to the building committee. What I guess the concerning part from my standpoint is that these details were not, at least on the dates I looked in board docs, were not on board docs. So the question is whether the building committee was aware of this, and if not, why not? you know,
Well, and I guess that's my biggest.
and if
Issue
they
is-
weren't aware of it, I mean, I made the point in
Well,
January
I
that.
was on the building committee and I don't recall being made aware of this, so I guess that's part of my frustration in this, I guess you could call it.
Well, I think this gets back to, I guess I'll refer to it, there are internal controls that relate to the, and I'm going to speak from my standpoint as someone who spent time auditing, but also spent inside the industry. You have internal controls that pertain to preparation of the financial statements and that result in the opinion by the auditors that the financial statements are fairly presented. Okay. So as Michael Keenan just outlined, they test transactions, they review things. There's the concept of materiality that comes into play, which means those auditors are not, they're not going to review everything and they're not going to find everything. Okay.
Right.
Then so then there's a second aspect of internal control. Again, I'm speaking from my own view here, is that how are things done internally and how does the board get information? And what is the quality of the information that is being presented, and is it adequate and provide enough detail to what I'll call validate or verify that what is there is, there's substance there. And I think that's the concern is the board, and my concern is the board saw a dashboard, never saw the detail. It doesn't appear as though the building committee saw the detail. And at least again, based on the meetings I looked at. So there, and I think that's an internal control from a different standpoint, an internal control breakdown that occurred. Because there should, you want segregation of duties. So if you look back at what happened with when we finally compiled the Prop L information that we initially presented in November and got I guess a more accurate presentation for January, there was, at least in my understanding, there was no syncing up the actual dollars spent in the aggregate against what was being presented to the board, as well as what was presented in the budget book and approved by the board in June. And that needs to be addressed. And it doesn't, that runs across the board, okay? And it's not just Prop L, it's all information. So when you're looking at personnel information, when you're looking at investment information, when you're talking about disbursements, do the numbers sync up, and do you have enough data or enough details to say, yes, if I get asked to approve, $5 million of expenditures, there's supporting documentation for the $5 million. And in some case, and it looks like the board got presented to approve $5 million and no detail. And the few building committee meetings I looked at, that was the same thing. Now, the first two work packages 1 and 2 were in board docs, and it looks like those were presented to the board. But after that, it was totals only. Again, that's if it's in board docs somewhere, I didn't fly spec board docs for the last 5 years.
Yeah, so Gordon, this is Yummy again. I just think this is what you're uncovering is something very important, just like you said, for the future of how things are handled, because serving on the building committee for a couple of years while a lot of this was going on, I saw how the things were presented, and it was always presented that we are totally on budget, and the documentation was presented to the building committee that we would just take money from this line expense and put it over here. So we were never out of budget. And then when it started to appear that we were way out of budget, the conversations I had with the chair of the building committee was like, he was totally unaware also. So, I mean, that, that just shouldn't be. So, I mean, we just do, like you said, we have to figure out how that the board can have enough information presented to them so we can make a good decision based on accurate information. And obviously, we were not given that information. So, like Michelle, I'm a little bit angry at this that we were making decisions sometimes over millions of dollars without the correct information. So I do hope we can get to the bottom of this so it doesn't happen in the future.
We agree. Okay, any other comments, Ron or Bob? Let's move on. Okay, where are we? I renumbered, but am I in number 9 now? Budget. So you have a document, 5 pages. This was, I believe, well, since I'm on the committee, it was sent out to the committee, I don't know, Monday or Tuesday. Or I don't know, Wednesday. When was it sent out? Okay. Tuesday. Which is why I didn't review it until this morning. So, so this is, I guess, a first run.
It's a first draft.
You want to take over?
Sure. The first draft of our operating budget, and the reasoning here that we released it to the ad hoc committee so they could see how the total operating budget lays out in relation to the personnel budget. So what we proposed yesterday to the personnel committee is a new budget with an increase of maybe 1.4% in expenses over last year's expenditures. The key points to look at here is you'll see obviously the increase on payroll and benefits and a slight decrease in library materials. They don't offset each other entirely, but nonetheless, it's worth noting. And you'll also see a significant increase or a noteworthy increase in technology services and repair and maintenance. This is the general high level overview, but each of the committees will have access to more detailed kind of line item budget information for each of these categories. New this year also is we'll be providing a little bit more detail on the operations side, in particular library materials, so you can kind of see what each of these categories means. For example, if you look at electronic resources, to the layman, this would translate as expenditures on databases. However, it includes databases and other digital resources that don't typically class as a database. And we're happy to explain these variances so you can understand why the numbers are where they are. Yes.
Can I just recommend we expand the chart of accounts?
I'm sorry,
Expand, if instead of collapsing into, these are all general ledger accounts, correct? Individual GL accounts. If we're breaking things out, or you want to break them out differently, if we're presenting to the board into no different than you did with library programs, which I think is great. Expanded the chart of accounts and say I have subscription databases and I have other electronic resources, whatever they are. So if I need 3 different accounts instead of 1, create 2 more accounts and start booking things into those accounts. So it's sort of like I'll use the example of contracted services, which, if I'm right, included security, snow removal, cleaning. That probably should be at least 3, 4, 5 accounts.
Okay, I hear you. So Quan, can you explain how we have it set up now versus last year?
We have different ways to track them. Instead of using the chart of accounts. For under each account, we will have a code for budget requests. And each budget request, like a snow removal, security service, each will have its own budget request line number. And we use that to track if you need additional information.
But that's for budget approval. What I'm talking about is just understanding from a board standpoint again. And you know, I've been doing this for 40 years, and a lot of people on the board don't do what I do or you do. Okay, I think for ease of them understanding where the money is going, if we're spending it last year, I think the number was 800,000 on cleaning services.
Yes.
Which is a big number. Then why not just have a line item for, cleaning services?
So my understanding is you want the report to show all those line item numbers. I mean, the detail to the line item, right? Like a cleaning service, snow.
Well, okay, there's two different issues, I think. One is on a budget, it's helpful to understand where the details are, okay? So I don't have to spend a bunch of time explaining that it's okay. In contracted services, why we're spending $1.8 million. We have cleaning, okay? Thank you, move on to the next one, okay? Now for financial reporting, okay, in my view, the financial report that we see every month can be probably collapsed to, you could get to where you collapse it to, a single page. Okay. I know that this is a historical practice, but again, budgeting, again, I think we have to take time to maybe a bad term here, educate the board, okay? Because we haven't seen the detail. The committees, the information that was given to the committees at a detail level was sometimes, I didn't think it was adequate, okay? So the budget can be at a greater level of detail, even though we may end up, reporting at a what I'll call a collapse level and later on. But again, I just want to check off cleaning. I don't want to spend time questioning if that's what the rate is, that's what the rate is. Okay. And same thing with probably, half of the lines in here.
Yeah, what you see on the screen is the draft of a budget summary. When we present the proposed budget, you should have all the account details. For most of them, not every single account, but for all major accounts, we'll have the account details explaining.
When you say present the proposal, are you talking about to the committee? Or, because this is what's been presented historically. I mean, this looks like the same format.
It is. I want to be clear here. This is a phased approach. I didn't think it was time to do a data dump with all of the detail. But that's going to be released to everyone at the same time, so you can look over.
Okay.
I mean, for 99% of that information is there. And roughly 80% of that information is formatted in the way that I'm comfortable with. But we're happy to share that. And we're going a little bit beyond what you're requesting. So you'll see kind of a little bit of justification as to why we decided to allocate money in various places. So this was just to give a high level summary so you can see how it lays out together. But in the very near future, you'll see a greater level of detail.
Just a comment on the second page. Cody, if you'll flip up there and blow it up a little bit, please. So at the ending fund balance, it shows 36.489 million. I would like to see, because we have this capital fund deficit. We have a capital fund receivable. So I'd like to see us reconcile to what we really have in terms of the net of that receivable. And then and I'd like to compare that to where we were with the levy projection, just to tie those two together. Because it looks like in total, we're not very far off from what we projected last September. And the budget at this point doesn't look like it's radically different from what was done there.
Maybe a $1 or $2 million difference. Yeah.
Well, we can, but again, I think, just to tie those two together so that, because that comes into play when we get into August and September of this year.
My understanding correctly is you like to see a combined fund balance of operating and the capital.
Well, at this point, that's where we are.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, I hope we get back to, managing those separately because of the cash flow issue and the what I'll call the liquidity issues on the capital fund side have put us into this spot.
Also, what's missing from the summary of this budget draft is a needed fund transfer from operating to capital. We need about $9 million, close to $9 million transfer to cover the negative balance.
And I think you said you believe that we'll have, I guess the question, does that have to happen before the end of the fiscal year? Is that something we can do after the fiscal year and we have decent numbers for the excess and just do it once?
It can be done during the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Anytime.
So that's what I would, unless there was an objection, that's what I would suggest we do. So we're not doing iterations of transfers.
Okay. We're going to talk about this more for budget.
I mean,
I have a question about revenue projection.
Okay.
All right, so I see that I assume we don't have any estimates from Platte and Clay County on.
No.
So on that, have you contacted the collectors? I work with Platte County. I think I'm pretty sure Platte has reports that can give us what their current what is on the table. Again, I would have to. I think Becky was the one I talked to. Just
I believe, based on the information we received, especially from Jackson County, we will receive the max amount allowed under the state statutes, 5% increase.
I believe that's the case too, but I know what Jackson's done since I've been in contact with them for some time.
For non-binding years.
And there's nothing in here from any other county. And so we're building this projected budget revenue to what, 59.7, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right, because this year, given the cost of living and what statutes are, 5% is a pretty simple figure to come up with. But I just kind of want to know what the individual counties are contributing and how relevant they are to this estimate. And yes, I know Jackson's further ahead. And that was my question. Have we heard from Platte or Clay? Because
not officially, no. Usually they would give us the numbers in June.
Well, we probably have to know. I think our vote on this suggests the third week in June. Is that what we're going to do? But it'd be nice to know that before the third week in June.
Yeah. The budget is based on the maximum amount, 5% increase. On top of that, the only uncertainty, there are two uncertainties. One is the new construction. And
the next question.
Yeah, it's kind of harder to project, but I use the same percentage as last year, 3.5%. It's a combination of new construction for real properties and new personal property. And the second one, based on my I use the projection to come up to the revenue, is the collection rate. 93% for next year. Current year is 94%.
93 is what we built into the levy estimate.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So that was below. I mean, it's as simple as asking them if they have preliminary data. If they have it, we can drop it in.
Yes. Okay. Contact.
Well, I think so. If one county's with the other, and that's, I was gonna ask about new construction. Now, I don't understand what, I know what taxing for financing is. Trust me. So these figures for TIF represent what?
TIF is we receive not a significant amount from many cities during the year. We could receive some TIF funds, some leftover from the TIF project.
That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
You're talking about excess.
Yes.
That usually happens.
Once the TIF is paid.
Yes, there are some leftover. Once the project come out of the TIF,
Yes.
that will become the base for the assessment.
And that's true, when that expires, I agree, but I saw TIF, well, I sort of understand TIF, and you've got.
I'm sorry, not
Back to the developer, most of it, much of it, depends on what the agreements are, but.
So Quan, just not, sorry to interject here, but so when it comes off TIF, that comes in at what value, and is it the current rate?
It should be at a market value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it comes in at the current, as if it's new construction?
No, not new construction. Should be just add on to the base.
It's just real property, first, whatever it is, that.
No, I know, but.
But I do that, a lot of projects that they have excess revenues when they expire.
Yes.
But again, so what has been contributing to the increased revenues is the fact that your construction costs have increased substantially, and they come in at the current rate. Yeah. And, so somebody, bought a house 10 years ago might have a different rate. That's a different cost.
They don't have a rate, they have assessed valuation.
They have a different cost, yes.
And I don't know how often Clay and Platt assess property. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's driven by state statute, at least my understanding, that's every 2 years. It has to be set as.
Theoretically correct, but if you think that all 115 counties in the state are doing that.
Well, we don't know that there are all 3 counties are doing it the same way.
That's true too. That's right.
So,
Yeah. But the point of all this was, we have a projected budget figure, and I know Jackson's pretty well into this, but there's not much for 23 on Clay and Platt. And I just wonder where they were in the process as we build this $59.7 million possible budget amount that is going to be. That's all what I was bringing up. I don't think I have. No. Okay.
all right. Anything else?
So one more. This is mine. We have a phenomenal unemployment compensation expenditure. Are people satisfied here? They want to stay employed? Good. I mean,
I'll let Jennifer speak to that, but yes, my general understanding is people love working for Met County in public life.
yeah, I even commented on that. That's phenomenal. Low rate that we're spending for it. That's great.
I take it your health insurance, is that due to increased cost for the excess insurance, or is that just conservative budgeting for claims?
For operating fund, this is the amount of the employer's contribution to the health insurance fund increased from $343.4 million to $4.1 million. 2 reasons. One, current year's budget, $3.4 million was a reduced amount because we had a higher than required fund balance. We reduced about $300,000. Also, based on current long-term projection, the claims will go up, stop loss will go up. So,
Well, that's all depends on whether people get sick.
It's a projection.
Right.
So if it's too much, the money will still sit in health insurance fund. We can transfer back if needed.
Okay, right. Okay. So that's good. Okay. Thank you. I have other thoughts, but I'll wait.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on that? So, any other business to be brought? Ron?
Just a general comment. In light of what's been discovered over the past, maybe starting a half year ago, I want to join Dr. Pandolfi in acknowledging the effort that you've placed in this. When John mentioned he was looking to a different role within the board, it was about the same time you expressed interest on joining the board and being reappointed by Platt. And I thought that was just an excellent opportunity to tap into your resources. I didn't know that we'd be relying on them to the extent of your time. But I think were it not for what you've discovered, the board would remain to be unaware of what actually transpired. So thank you for your time and effort and talent. But I think at a very broad level, the receipt of information, I think, at least to me, going to concepts of a financial audit, as well as the rules of evidence, they're concepts of materiality and relevance. And, relevant is the dollar amount, significant materiality, relevance. I mean, is it a significant matter? And does it apply what we're talking about? I think when we look at the stuff that we received, I think a great amount of effort is warranted to look whether or not the information was what was essential for the board to make determinations and establish policy. And I'm just grateful that this effort, you and Aaron and all the executives are undertaking this. Very grateful.
Any other comments, Aaron?
I'm good.
Okay, Yummy, Michelle, if nothing else, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Thank you for all being here, by the way. It's great.
I move the meeting be adjourned.
Second. Ron seconded. Anyone, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Bill, you still with us?
I'm not.
She lost it.
Dropped off.
Yeah.
Right, well.